And now we need the IT guy from niche. He is a front-end and UX developer, founder of Serbian creative community Slack group, organizer of Silicon Drink About Niche event that happens each Friday and covers tech talks, and speaker on meetups and conferences. He works for H-Tech Group. Please welcome, as they say, CSS Ninja, Michel Tekinder.
Oh, thank you. Is this thing working? Oh, yeah, nice. So, yeah, this is me. This is the picture that my colleague take early in the morning. It doesn't usually look like that, but yeah, sorry for this unappealing appearance. So, yeah, yes, they deleted one of my slides, so I'll start from here. So, this is me. I'm a front-end UX developer. Actually, I'm the engineer who's actually thinking about the things from the perspective of the users. So e-commerce users or the users who uses your shops and stuff. So I work for the H-Tech Group company, which is a nice company. We like to call us a small company because we have less than 200 employees. But we are heading to the number of 200, so I think when I finish this presentation, there is going to be more of us in the company. So yeah, today we are here to talk about the performance. One of the things that I usually encounter when I talk with my clients or the clients or the clients of clients is everybody asks me why I talk about performance for the beginning. Because most of the times we are all engineers, of course. We like to do crazy stuff and write crazy code. So performance is something which needs to be planned from the beginning. Because sometimes something which our client wants isn't actually something that our client needs. So in most of cases we end up with slower websites and all of the stuff, and all of the baggage is going to be thrown on our backs. So yeah, first thing first, performance is really easy to do. That's something which is, I don't know, trivial. And most of our guys, developers or the engineers, we don't think about performance for the client side or for the user sides, and that's actually why everything ends up bad. And yeah, from the client point of view, this is something which is, in most of the time, most of the talks thrown out by the client. So Google decides that the speed is actually really important SEO factor. With what I agree, because if you have a slow website, you're going to end up with slower pages. That actually mean a bigger bounce rate. So somebody actually got to your website, your page, and you want to sell them something, and it ends up going anywhere else because your page is really, really slow. That's something which actually needs to be avoided anytime. Bigger bounce rates leads us to a lower user engagement, So I end up at your store and want to buy something, but actually I saw a few more things which I'm interested in, and if the page is slow, it's actually going to find these things at your concurrents. So yeah, you're going to end up with a bigger bounce rate, which is actually also a factor, SEO factor, because Google decided that's needed to be that way. So, bigger bounce rates also leads us to lower user engagement. I already talked about it. I don't know why I actually said it 2 times, but yeah. And the lower user engagement leads us to less earnings. Less earnings is not good when you are an e-commerce website. We know that, of course. So, from the perspective of our clients, there is a few things here that are really important. Most of the clients see this slide like this. So, SEO factor, bounce rate, lower user engagement, less earnings. You are out. So, if we think about all of this from the user perspective, we are going to, nail it. Our website is going to be really fast. We are going to sell a bunch of stuff, and our boss is going to be happy. So, let's think about that from the engineer's perspective. So, yeah, speed is important, but hey, there's some guys who are called Open Signal. They do the internet speed overall over the earth. And they say that all of the speeds are going from 2 megabytes to 37 megabytes. And actually, when I talk about this with the engineers in my company and my colleagues all around the world, they say, hey, the future is here. We don't need to care about performance because we have really fast internet. We have, the guys who are inventing the internet and doing the maintenance of it, doing the job for us. So we need to take care about that. That's, our job done is on the set. But if you think if you look at this slide, is actually there's a few countries that have bigger internet speed. So basically, we're going to stack like between 4 and 6 megabytes of internet speed overall. So by looking at that, if we have on the desktop from 4 to 5, 6, we are actually going to end up with a little less on our mobile networks, because we have a ping, when the device asks for a page, it actually needs to go to some tower, which is actually going to connect to the server and all around the world. So we have a lot of ping. And when we think about that, this is something that I was scared of. 77% of the mobile websites take more than 10 seconds to load on a really good 3G network, which is really bad. And overall, we have a 90 seconds average load time on 3G networks. And this is something which scares me and most of my clients really, really much. So what can we do about that? We actually, when we start planning our performance budget for any kind of application or any kind of website, we actually need to think about these things first. So we need to know for which region are we doing our shops. So if we end up doing shops in like Norway or Denmark, we actually don't need to think about performance on this way, because they have a really fast connections. But if we are going to do like in Somalia or Africa, for example, we have a really big problem from the early beginning. So, yeah, one of the things that we as developers or engineers doesn't think is we don't think like our clients or their clients, because everybody, this is 2017 years, 21st century. We want things fast, really like fast things, and that's all about the internet. But sometimes we're actually going to end up with the results which are not going to be good for us. So yeah, how this thing works. Yeah, so this question is really interesting and it's really boring at the same time. What are the usual bad performance causes? So everybody is thinking about everything. Everybody thinks that there is no such thing as a bad performance or something that causes bad performance, but that's incorrect. And I did a research which lasts the last 1 year from today. And I found out that only 3 things are really important for our performance. So, come on. Oh, sorry. So, this is it. Everything we need to take care about, everything we need to think about. So sometimes when clients hear these 3 sentences, they was like, okay, we're going to do this really fast, this is really good. So, yeah. First of the thing that really frightens me is this. The average mobile web page is around 2.5 megabytes. This is a really big number, and it takes 30 seconds to download on fast 3G connections. So from these 2.5 megabytes, we actually have 1.5 megabytes of size of the content. So this is something that we need to trim at the beginning. So doing compressing and stuff when we enter things into our website is actually the first line of defense when the performance is performed. So yeah, right now we have a 7 seconds on fast 3G connections, which is really bad for mobile also, but it's kind of, okay. Yeah, the second thing, too much requests. Most of the websites today, applications, web applications and stuff, have a lot of baggage to hold every time. So there's at least around 4 CSS files, 5 to 15, that depends on the kind of application. It's the JavaScript files, at least 2 fonts, because designers today like fonts. They're throwing fonts like flowers all around the websites and doing crazy stuff with it. So yeah, and actually ends up at our problem, at developers' problem, because we need to figure out the way how to go our way, beyond these 2 fonts. And around 30 icons and images used in any page. It can be shared throughout the application, throughout the website, but most of the time that's the number which is kind of common for all the websites. And we think that fixing this is going to be easy, so we put all the fonts and CSS files in the header, as usual, and put all the JS files in the footer, and we nailed the performance, right? And that's wrong, because doing this way, we're actually creating another problem, which is which is actually like compressing problem, kind of problem with compressing things, because we like to compress all the things every time, and that sometimes is good. But doing this way, we will going to end up with the larger files, because we are concatenating scripts, concatenating styles, putting everything on every page, which is essentially going to hurt our performance. So, how should we actually fix this? As I say at the beginning, fixing this is really, really easy. We just need to take from the side of the server. So, yeah. When we start doing performance, we actually need to have our designs done. That is something which is, done all the way. So designers fix all the things and give us the designs. So that is the first problem, because as from the side of front-end developers, we need to work with designers on their designs, because eventually we are not going to code this website for ourselves. We need to code this website for our clients or their clients. So thinking from the client perspective, working with the guys from the design team to find the best solution, so we can, trim at the beginning all the unused or unnecessary resources. It's like the first goal when you plan your project or when you plan, coding something. But there's a second thing which usually developers doesn't care about. That's creating a smaller files but creating reusable components. So most of the time, when we see reusable components and any kind of the components today in front-end development, we mean about the JavaScript applications and all of the weird stuff going around the JavaScript community. And that's wrong, because CSS and HTML needs to work together to create smaller components also. So by creating reusable styles, so using the methodologies we have today, we can create small files, separate them by templates, and creating like the common styles we can have on every page, which is essentially going to be cached at the beginning, and afterwards going to be reused everywhere. So separating templates assets is something that I found really, really useful, because most of the time we don't need scripts and we don't need styles from the contact page on our main page or on our product page. We don't need like sliders and stuff that we use for our featured stuff on the front page. So separating templates assets, it's one of the bigger things we can do and trim all of the unnecessary files at the beginning. So the next thing is parallelize assets loading. Most of the developers today doesn't do that because we have fast connections, yeah, because why should we do the things a little bit differently or maybe weird in some cases? Because we have like nice internet connections and we can do everything concatenated, and that will be good. But parallelization of assets is actually one of the best things the internet has. Because most of the browsers today can load assets from nearly 6 or 7 resources at the same time. Because if you use CDNs, if you use cookieless domains, which we created for our assets, which needs to be cached right away, and we use like Google fonts and stuff, we can trim the time for the last assets loaded. Because our site is fast as much as last assets is loaded and can be used. So parallelization is actually really good. Lazy load, less important assets. Most of the time, when we end up of, let's say, product page, we have a bunch of images of that products, and that's nice. You know, our clients or their clients needs to see what kind of products they're actually going to buy. So giving them the most description of the product we can is actually the best way. But we doesn't need to load everything on the run. You know, you see a bunch of websites today like Amazon and stuff have a bunch of icons, a bunch of images, descriptions, videos and stuff. That's something from that 2.5 megabytes we have. So lazy loading, less important assets, is doing in parallel with loading the main assets that we need. So it's not important to have everything right away on our page, because on slower connections that can be awful. And today when we think about e-commerce and all of the stuff going around it, most of the buyers today are from the mobile networks, so from the mobile devices, which is something which actually frightens me. I'm not the mobile device guy. I don't like, you know, to do a bunch of stuff with mobiles. I like firm desktop machines, fast internet connections and stuff. So yeah, the next thing is lazy load. So preloading and prefetching. Does anyone do preloading and prefetching today? Do you know what's the preloading and prefetching? No? Really? So yeah, that is something which goes hand by hand with lazy loading. When we preload some resource, we are actually telling our browser that that resource is going to be used in this page later on. So we can do that in our head of our every website. So saying, okay, we have like 35 images, we have like few JavaScript files, we have a bunch of text, we have a bunch of things that we need to be used beyond the fold. So we need to preload them. So that's like hand-to-hand to lazy loading and parallelize, because preloading actually does a parallelize and lazy loading, you know, at the same time. And this microphone doesn't like me. So yeah, prefetching things means that we can fetch things from our server for any kind of like next pages we are going to encounter. If we are building let's say for example we have a landing page which has like featured products, which has most buy products and stuff, and we know that eventually from that page our user is going to end up on product page. So we can prefetch all the resources we need for our product page. So when somebody clicks on that page or that link and it leads to our product page, essentially we have all the resources preloaded already in the front. So that can sometimes, depending on page size, that can sometimes save us from 3 to 7 seconds. And that is really, really good. So after that, prioritization of crucial resources. So this actually sounds really stupid, but it's something that we need to do from the early beginning. We know, okay, our website, we know the architecture of our website, or mostly all of the e-commerce websites are having the same templates, same sizes, same pages, sorry. So we know, okay, on our contact page, we first need to load the font, because they are mostly fonted. If we don't have fonts, or we are loading fonts after the content is loaded, we are having the flash of the unstyled text, which is sometimes found, you know, really, really bad. And most of the time when I encounter that, I'm actually going to another page to look something different, because it's really awful on mobile pages. And on mobile network, actually, you see the blank page, and you can't see actually nothing. So you end up on your page, all of the resources which are not crucial are ending up first, and you end up looking at your white page at your mobile phone like for 7-8 seconds. And that's something which I found really frightening, because most of the time when I want to buy something, I want to buy it fast, buy a few things that I actually doesn't need, and, you know, go to a different place. So yeah, next thing, go for the above the fold optimization. Yeah, that is something which came from a print era. If someone of you is here is a designer, they'll actually know what's the above the fold. So above the fold is a side or something you'll encounter or see when you go to a page. The first thing before you scroll, before you do anything, that's the above the fold area. So that's why we need to optimize prefetch and do all of the crazy things. So our above the fold areas is like visible from first millisecond. Afterwards, everything that we prefetched, everything that we preload, that we parallelize and everything is going to be visible, but it's going to take seconds of you. So from this stage on, we actually did go through everything that I do daily. And I would like to go to questions. I like answering the questions, so I actually let a few more minutes to questions. So shoot up. Sorry, the guy actually has a microphone.
Hello.
Hello.
My name is Melvin. I have a question actually about the preloading that you mentioned. As an example, we have a customer that has a lot of items in his submenu actually. That includes a lot of images.
Yes.
That menu is loaded on every page. It's all cached, but it still results in a lot of requests, which is not for Google, not good for the Google page speed, insights actually, and the score there. Would you recommend that those images are prefetched then, or?
Yeah, actually, if you the main difference between preloading and prefetching is you preload the resources on this page, which is going to be used further down, and prefetch things which are going to be on the next page. So in your case, you can maybe prefetch a bunch of images or icons that you use on the earlier page. So if you have a bunch of them, you can maybe do half preloading right now and half prefetching, before the encounter page. So it's going to trim like the half the time you'll actually need it to end up on this page.
Okay, thank you.
We can talk in the hall afterwards. I have a lot of things to say, but I'm trying to have like the concise answers because there's no time for talking today.
Okay, thank you.
Just take the microphone.
Sorry, what's your idea of implementing above the fold optimization? How would you do that in Magento?
Yes, so that's something, to answer your question, we need to start at the early beginning. So above the fold actually is done by the designers. So before we start implementing or coding any kind of page, we need to know what's essentially going to be there. So for about the fold page, I actually code it as a one like big hero header in one file on one place. Like let's say I have a section which is holding everything, because from the perspective of the HTML page, if the tag is opened, everything which is loaded in between the opening and closing tag actually is going to be flushed right away. So separating the above the fold content or the code, it's actually good. And then when the browsers encounter, they know the pages or the tag is opened. So let's parse everything inside and fast close this tag and flash the content. So I would suggest, or I do it this way. Always separate the above the fold and down the fold content, which is going to.
And for every page type, you will do that?
Yes, for every page type. Let's say if the page is actually like contact page or about us page, if you don't have like a lot of important resources on top, like big images, carousels of items and stuff, that can be done afterwards. You can don't do above the fold. But for the landing pages, for the main pages of your website, for product pages, and for pages that needs to be parsed quickly, let's say this way, for pages which are important, do above the fold. For the rest of the pages, doesn't do it.
Thanks.
Yeah. More? No?
So we know HTTP2 is a great thing. How much have you started looking at progressive web apps?
Actually, currently I work for a company which does a lot of PVAs. So most of the things I talked about here today is actually like the patterns from there. So as from that side of PVA pages, most of the time if you use like bundlers and stuff like Webpack, like stuff, you can separate the resources, and that's doing this template, stuff separating. So I tried few times HTTP, which can, as you know, load the assets in parallel. So that's good. But the HTTP actually, in my opinion, and from the tests that I did, actually adds me a few more seconds. You can see the content right away, but actually needs a few more seconds to, process everything. And if you plan to use the HTTP too, you can use it with the web workers. So that's the win-win situation. If you go for the HTTP2, just use web workers with that, and it's going to be great. But without web workers, it's going to be kind of laggy, because most of the browsers doesn't support HTTP fully. So on like a low-level browser set like EA or Edge, it's going to be awful. So combination of HTTP2 and web workers is a win situation.
Cool.
Thank you.
Okay, thanks, Michel.
Thank you, guys.
We have something for you. Wait, don't run.
Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah, it goes with my early in the morning picture. Thank you. Thank you.